Hello, citizens of YouTube. This is the Geeky Nerd here, and today we're going to be talking about the Photonis Echo PVS-14. But before I begin, I'd like to send a big thank you out to everyone who has liked, commented, and subscribed on the previous videos. I always appreciate it and always enjoy talking to you guys. And if you enjoy the video here, enjoy the type of content we have here on the channel, please consider liking, commenting, and or subscribing. And with the PR out the way, let's get into it. So, the PVS-14, and in particular the tube in here, is a Photonis Echo. So if you're looking at the thermal, you're looking at all the bridge, don't worry, these are on the channel as its own separate video, but today we're just talking about the PVS-14 here. So there is a lot of reviews, a lot of items already out there about the PVS-14, a lot of things about the Echo. I just want to give kind of my take on it. So in this setup right here, I have a bridge setup of a Photonis Echo PVS-14 and a Arma Sidekick 640 thermal to achieve thermal fusion as opposed to a clip-on E-Cody type device. And so in particular with the PVS-14, so I'll go over the outside view of it. Again, it's known out there. It has a Carson housing. These little caps on here, they're made by Cap Plugs. This one is SC 1 5/8, so if you ever need another cap, that's the size. Standard mil spec diopter here, power on off, and then the IR flood. Nice glass fiber reinforced nylon housing, standard AA battery cap here with the O-ring, tethered, of course, your manual gain control, your IR flood, and the day cap, as well as the front sight here. Yes, you see a little insert in here. I will have a short video just talking about that and what that is, a little sacrificial lens. But yeah, overall, standard PVS-14 here. This is on a Raven bridge with a Wilcox G24. Again, separate video for that. But what makes this, I guess, say different from a lot of the ones out there is what's the tube inside. So when I'm talking about the tube, it's actually a little circular device that goes inside. That is the cathode that basically collects and gathers lights and then filters it to your eye. Generally speaking, for those that don't know, a PVS-14 is just the designation of the housing of the device. In this case, a thermal, sorry, a monocular, night vision monocular. The Photonis Echo is the actual, when you hear tube, that is the cathode inside that is projecting the light to your eye. So everything else generally stays the same with these. You know, you have Tanto housings. PVS-14, the Carson housing here is kind of the mil spec, mil standard one. So take that for what you will. But again, the tube inside is what differentiates it. Now, there's a lot of people out there that they go through either Elbit, which is another manufacturer, or L3. L3 is kind of the gold standard, and with that comes the significant price, right? For a good pair of like flawless, no blem, and I'm explaining more about that here. No blem aviation tubes. You know, you're going to be talking about. Or aviation grade, you're talking about maybe $4-ish grand, probably even a bit more. But again, you're getting like the very top spec, unfilmed, white phosphorus, very high FOM tubes. Now, the Photonis Echo here, the one I have, is, well, sorry, let me take a step back. The L3 is a Gen 3 tube, so there's 3 generations. Again, I won't go into too many details here about that because, again, plenty of other videos have done it better than I have, or better than I would. But there's different generations. The Photonis Echo, by the nature of it, is a Gen 2 plus. When you put them side to side, and I've seen them. I have a good friend who I've looked through his. He has his top spec L3 tubes. At standard ambient light, standard settings, indoor, outdoor, what have you, it is very hard to honestly tell the difference between my Photonis and his L3. His definitely has a brighter image, but if you have them side by side. Without having them side by side, am I feeling wanting with the Photonis Echo? No. Now they have Photonis Echo Standard, they have the Photonis Echo 4G, which is like their very crazy top spec one, which is on toe-to-toe with an L3, but for everyone else, Photonis, there's the Photonis Echo is going to be the standard. standard model for everyone. Now, this one I picked up, I believe, for 28 and some change, brand new. Now, one thing that's really nice about the Photonis that I can't stand because OCD is a pain in the butt, right, is on the L3 ones, if you're not getting that very top high spec one, you're going to see a term called blemish. And that is when you turn on the tube, you'll actually see like little dots, little imperfections. They don't affect the longevity of the tube, but they are not meeting spec. They do have some occlusions included. Now, the Photonis line, I've yet to really see where they ever have a blem. That's very rare that I've ever seen and or heard of a Photonis having a blem. So that's one thing that I like, is just having a very clear tube, no blemishes, no any kind of issues there. Again, doesn't affect performance, but just more of an OCD type thing. And especially with this, you're kind of getting the you are getting the top mid spec, which was my whole design for my everything on my helmet, right? I wanted to get top mid spec. Didn't want to pay the extra price with diminishing returns of the crazy top spec. Didn't want the low end stuff to where I'm going to felt wanting, right? And when you compare this to the really high spec stuff, you can see the difference, but but talking about thousands of dollars extra for that diminishing return, I feel like, money is invested better elsewhere, right? But if I had the money, of course, would get it, right? Wouldn't we all? So again, with this Photonis Echo here, it's really just chef's kiss. One thing I really like about this, especially this one, my tube in particular, because every tube is different. You're not going to get the same tube across the board. You get the same housing, but the tube is going to vary, right? And this one being the white phosphorus one, when it does get utterly low light, like just like high tree cover, no stars, no moon, no nothing like that, right? Walking in the woods. Again, with that same close friend, his L3, his top spec, definitely had a brighter image, definitely could see more detail, definitely could see some of the rocks better than I could walking around. But at the same time, I was able to, with his gain maxed out, my gain maxed out, I was able to keep pace with him. Now, he'd be better to be in the front of the line versus I'd be better in the rear. I wouldn't be better to lead, only because I could see different items, but I did have to really kind of push hard to be able to see them clearly without any type of supplemental light source, right? Any type of IR light. So that's definitely where it kind of struggled, but I never felt like I had to, have a rope tied to my waist and pull it along. So overall, it's a fantastic tube, fantastic setup. This whole setup is perfect, in my opinion, because it's the perfect price for a PVS, perfect price for a thermal, and then having the two, like you're not having a crazy high spec with a crazy low spec, because you don't want to kind of mix. You kind of want to keep price and performance somewhat similar, right? So again, talking about this Photonis, I find them very, very reliable. The life on them is, I believe it's like, it's either 20 or 50,000 hours, right? Essentially, you're never going to get enough use out of these to burn out these tubes. But they do have the same things about, just being careful putting next to any type of really bright lights for extended period of times, burn in, etc., etc. And one thing that may sway some people's decision is Photonis being made in France, being made internationally, to where Elbit and L3 made here in the USA. So that does, kind of sway some arguments here. And Photonis, one thing I've found as well is that you can get some government overrun contracts, which are very nice. They're the very top spec ones. If you can find one of those for Photonis for, sub under 4, you're getting that L3 performance, in my opinion, because those usually are the 4G tubes. And that's one thing as well, is that any other country outside the US, they are using Photonis tubes because they are more cost effective and they are made internationally, where everyone that is US based, military, law enforcement, what have you, right, is going to either run those Elbit tubes or the L3 if they can afford it. Generally speaking, the Elbits, people navigate to those just because, again, the cost, right, that diminishing return. But I would 100% stake anything on these Photonis Echo, and especially this PVS-14 here. So I am going to have a quick cut and just kind of show you guys how the performance looks and how it looks through the sight. Okay, guys, so here is the view through the monocular, and pretty much, well, not pretty much, pitch darkness, right? Pitch black. There really isn't, not even really isn't. There is no other light other than what's coming from my screen here. But this is the view as you see from the tube, right? So you really can't see too much detail. I mean, you can definitely make your way around. Again, this is pitch black. You could definitely see there's something there. And I'll show with the IR flood what that is, right? But this is like an absolute worst case scenario. Now you see those like little pixels, those like little looks like snow falling. That is the scintillation that is essentially, you know, trying to pick up every bit of ambient light possible. But you see, it doesn't really have that much noise compared to some of the other tubes that you can see. You definitely still make out, you definitely kind of see around, definitely see some ambient light of things, right? So this is kind of in the absolute worst case of the Photonis Echo. Okay, and as you guys can see here, so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a life vest around a backpack. But you can see with the IR flood, you can't see all of the detail that we were missing. Again, you weren't missing too much, but definitely missing a bit. To where this, of course, you know, upside is you get to be able to see things. Downside is anyone who else has night vision is going to be able to see you lighten up like a beacon, right? It comes out very bright, basically like having a flashlight. But that's kind of detail you're missing. Again, you could definitely see something was there, but you weren't able to discern exactly what it was, which is where having a thermal can definitely aid, and also just being, you know, aware of your surroundings, right, can assist you. So this is the view, and as you see here, kind of looking at a white background, there isn't any type of blems, any type of issues or anything that's there. That would be a pause for concern, which I really like about the Photonis, is very clear. So yeah, there's the view from inside the tube with pitch black and with some IR. Hey guys, so we're back here again. As you guys saw, it is a very clear tube, especially in pitch black. Again, in particular with my tube, it doesn't have a lot of I believe it's called striations, or basically like a lot of static, almost like old school TVs where they had static on the image. It keeps a very low static, so you're not losing a lot of detail. But you could see that it was wanting a little bit when it is pitch black. But overall, I did not find it wanting, in my opinion, when being used in its correct circumstance, right? And as well, one thing that this Photonis has, kind of their little claim to fame, is they have one of the best, fastest auto gating. So whenever there's a bright flash, like gunfire, what have you, it is one of the quickest ones, even quicker than the L3s, to be able to basically shut down and then turn back on to prevent damage to itself, to where every other one is a bit more longer to achieve that process, and it takes a bit for it to get its self gain back. So that's one thing I like about the Photonis. And finally, I know I'm just saying a lot here, right? But it's such a cool thing. I mean, if you can afford one of these, it really is buying a superpower. It is something that is life changing to be able to have. Can you use in an everyday situation? No. But is it cool to have? Yes. And is it functional to have when you need it? Oh, heck yes. Is that people say that L3 is generally going to be a better tube overall if you are in a extremely dark environment. If you need the top spec performance, but mainly if you're in that darkest of dark environments, middle of nowhere, no cities, anything like that. Where people say that the Photonis shines, especially in city environments, supplemental light, ambient light, has lower bloom, and just overall, some people would argue, is a better tube. But again, your mileage may vary. So with all of that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope I was provide some information, kind of my own take, my own setup, and I guess got to show you guys some of the goodies here. So please look on the channel here for all the reviews on the rest of this stuff here. And if you have any questions or anything you want to add with here with the Photonis, with the PVS-14, let me know. If you guys are looking for one, let me know, and hopefully I can maybe give some valuable insight, because I know it is a lot of money to drop, especially when there's a lot of conflicting information out there. I'm not the expert, but I definitely have found what I like, found what I don't, have touched the high-end stuff, I've touched the low-end stuff. So I feel like I have a pretty good gauge where some people don't. So again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Please consider liking, commenting, and or subscribing. And with that, I hope everyone is having a wonderful, awesome, fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys next time. See you guys.